On today's show, Laura Heywood interviews
the writers of the brand new musical, Joey and Ron, a new 60s bubblegum rock musical preparing to debut off-Broadway later this year, Louie Pearlman and Joel Esher. Welcome to Laura Heywood Interviews. I'm Laura Heywood. My guests today are performer, writer, comedian, musician hybrids, and they put all of their talents to use in this hilarious new musical, Joey and Ron. We'll get into the show's inspiration, plot, themes, and future, but first, a little bit about these creators. Louie Pearlman has been an innovator and maverick of the NYC comedy and art scene since 2002. His officially licensed Archie Comics and Riverdale stories, Nice Girls Finish Last and Riverdale's Worst Nightmare, are currently available on the platform Yarn. Louie co-hosts and produces two podcasts, XOXO Riverdale and Kick the Jukebox, and his pieces have appeared on Gizmodo, Rebeat Magazine, and Tough Pigs. For over 10 years, Louie has been a producer, director, performer, and teaching artist with my favorite theater company, the nationally recognized arts education organization Story Pirates, where he's performed nationally in theaters, music festivals, and schools. And Joel Esher is also a Story Pirate, specifically their music director, music supervisor. He's a composer, lyricist, and educator, and was recently nominated for the Off-Broadway Alliance Best Musical Award for Pharma Bro, which he wrote with Lauren Gundrum. Other works include Folk Wandering, Bagels from Benny, Sammy Spider, and the upcoming No Place with Gregory Van Acker, which was a O'Neill Theater 2019 NMTC semifinalist. Joel and Louie have known each other for a long time and have been working on Joey and Ron for years, and I can tell you from firsthand experience that the musical is fresh, fun, and surprising. I can't wait to talk about it, and I really can't wait for the world to get to see it later this year at the Players Theater. Louie Pearlman and Joel Esher, welcome to Laura Heywood Interviews.
Hello.
Hey, Laura. Thanks so much for having us.
I'm so excited that you guys are here. As regular listeners know, I often have big-time, very accomplished theater performers. I've had Tony winners. I've had Grammy winners.
Yeah.
I've also had people outside the theater industry as a whole. And I'm really excited to talk to people who are veterans in the sense that you've been working in this industry for a long time, but also that you are really at the beginning of your professional theater making career as it comes to off-Broadway.
Sure.
And that larger audiences are going to be able to see some of your work, especially as collaborators for the first time.
Yeah, no, it's really, really exciting. We're very happy to be here. Those intros made us sound like real, legitimate people.
Thank you for that.
I do only have real, legitimate people as guests.
Oh my gosh.
People who are semi-imaginary don't get to.
We are really here in the room right now.
You are true, actual human beings.
I was just thinking as you were giving those introductions, this is the first time that Louie and I have sat together on a podcast about the show explicitly.
True.
Louie's done a number of podcasts on his own. But this is the first time we're together talking about the show, and it's really exciting to be here with you on it.
Well, that's an honor for me because, I feel like even though I only got my first glimpse of Joey and Ron fairly recently, I have known Joey. I'm going to start calling you Joey and Ron.
Oh, God.
I have known Louie for over a decade.
That's right.
Because we are both Story Pirates,
Yes.
and as I talk about Story Pirates, you'll hear me alternate between saying they, as in the Story Pirates they, and us, as in the Story Pirates us.
Yeah.
I am on the board of directors of Story Pirates Changemakers, which is the nonprofit sort of half of Story Pirates, which brings programs to low-income schools.
Yes.
So in that context, I am a Story Pirate. But when I talk about Story Pirates as performers, because what we do is we go into these schools and we take original stories written by kids and turn them into sketch comedy and musicals on a big scale, like practically a Broadway scale, and then perform them for the kids in their communities. I don't actually do any of the teaching, the performing, or the writing. I do the advocating and the fundraising and stuff. So when I talk about Story Pirates in the second person, like if I'm talking about you guys or the third person saying them, what I mean is the performers. So forgive me for being a little back and forth on the us and them, because I am a Story Pirate, but not the same way you guys are.
Sure, yeah.
So Louie and I have known each other for a long time. And Joel, it's so funny because we had a meeting the other day. it turns out I got so excited about this project that I may end up being on the creative team in some way.
We really hope so.
We hope so.
It hasn't been decided what I'm going to do, but like I
will
kind of
keep
was like,
talking to you
I want to
about
be
it.
part of this family. And we had a meeting the other day, and Joel was like, it's so nice to really like finally meet you. And I was like, what? Because I have seen you perform so many times that I just felt like we did know each other. And then I realized, of course, like, you don't differentiate each audience member as having back and forth with you necessarily, at least in a recognizable way.
Sure.
But I felt like we were already longtime friends because we've been in the same room so many times.
I absolutely had that same experience where I would do a show like at SiriusXM or even at downstairs in the theater, and then I would like see you afterward or before, and you come and talk to us about what the show was, what stories we're gonna do, so, like ask if we're gonna do one of like your favorite stories or something. So like I had all these interactions where you were talking kind of like to me in the context of like 6 or 7 people. But, like this is a great chance for us to actually have like a real connection, a back and forth. And we had a great coffee meeting the other day where I was like, oh my god, you're so cool. I had so much fun talking to you about this stuff.
I hope I don't end up letting you down when you find out how like ordinary I am.
All the coolest people are the geekiest people.
I mean,
you're definitely
true.
An enthusiast about the things that you love. You know?
That is the truest statement that's ever been said about me.
Yeah.
In the history of time.
Yeah, that's something we have in common. Yeah.
I know, yeah. And actually, I think that's why we have really bonded over the years.
Yeah.
We're also, so many of our contemporaries who came into Story Pirates around the same time that we did, you were there before I was, but have moved on. And you and I are both like, I'm still obsessed with this thing.
Yeah.
We're like the grandparents of the Story Pirates.
Yeah, it's a little hard for me. I never want to look at myself as like a Story Pirates elder statesman because I feel like there's a bit of a tinge of irrelevancy in that sort of title. But, and for me, I feel like Story Pirates is growing and changing. It's ever growing, ever changing. And as an organization, and I feel like I'm growing and changing along with the organization, which I really, really like about it. And I feel like I still have so much to offer with Story Pirates.
Of course, definitely.
And I just feel like for me, performing and directing with Story Pirates is always going to be part of sort of my artistic palette of what I do, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. So much of the work that we do is going into schools very early in the morning and doing very high energy shows in stinky wigs. And definitely for me, I was hired as a Story Pirate when I was 26 and now I'm 38. So I don't do maybe that work as much anymore. But, this year I ended up singing a song on the Story Pirates podcast that's on Gimlet, the Gimlet network, that is called Backstroke Raptor. That's a B-52s tribute.
Didn't you write that song too?
No, actually, our friend Brendan O'Grady wrote that song. But he wrote it for me.
I was going to say, because I know you're such a B-52s fan.
Yeah,
and you sound, I'm sending a text right now to Story Pirates artistic director and CEO to see if we can get permission to play Backstroke Raptor on the show right now.
Please,
This is like...
I can also always do
a little
acapella version of it.
Joel, you didn't bring like a portable keyboard or like
just a little bassy beatboxing over here.
Oh, I'll take that too. What do you call that? What do you call that instrument? Oh, a melodica. Where you blow into the keyboard. Do you play the melodica at all?
Of course.
Oh, good.
Who else plays it?
Who else
plays a good melodica?
Who?
Fred Schneider from the B-52s.
Of course.
Yeah, he plays an excellent melodica.
Let me I'm going to send this text right now.
Sure.
Let's see. Does Story Pirates? This is what we call pulling back the curtain.
Yeah, seriously.
Because the show is live, I don't edit it. I always like to stress the fact that nobody's perfect, including me, and you get to hear all of my like stumbles over words and if I accidentally press the wrong button, because I think that when somebody's in the public eye, especially when they have this sort of aspirational life like I do, it's really easy for people to think that everything is so slick and perfect all the time.
Yeah.
And so I embrace this idea of live radio, even though a lot of people are listening to it as a pre-taped podcast.
Sure.
It does air live. So that includes pulling back the curtain to write, does Story Pirates own the songwriting and publishing rights to Backstroke Raptor, because I want to play it on
right now.
the air right now. Louie and Joel are here.
Yeah, this is very similar to how I operate my podcast, Kick the Jukebox, which airs every other Sunday when we're available. It doesn't always, we try to do 2 episodes a month on kpiss.fm, the Golden Stream, which operates out of an Airstream trailer in Bushwick, Brooklyn.
I cannot believe it calls itself that. And I'm also glad that we don't have FCC guidelines on this station.
Oh, yeah, I should have asked about that.
Because you can actually say that.
KPIS, the Golden Stream,
the
home of...
I find it gross.
The home of baseball in America. That's what we say about Bushwick, Brooklyn. And but we often, we talk about different bands of the week. We're a musicology podcast. And sometimes we're looking stuff up as we're broadcasting live as well. If we don't know a fact, we are also imperfect. We're in fact, Laura, we're much more imperfect than you are.
Is there a scale of imperfect? I mean, I think it's kind of like pregnancy. There's you either are or you're not.
What do you think, Joel?
I think we're mostly imperfect beings doing the best we can. I'm noticing as I talk that my eyes close when I start to talk, and I'm like, what even is that?
It's because you're thinking
I'm
a little bit.
going so deep in my little
You're
mind
having
here.
a little think. Yeah, you're having a little think.
Yeah, but I was thinking about On Being, a really wonderful podcast where the interviewer interviews someone and then they edit it down, but then they also released a completely unedited version where you hear them sit down at the chair and be the interviewee asks what kind of interview is this going to be, and you get to really see the behind the curtain. Or if you're have a 45-minute or 55-minute drive to work and you want to listen to the 55-minute version, they have that too.
That's interesting. I wonder whether I should think about doing something like a half-hour streamlined version and make that available separately as Laura Heywood interviews condensed.
Yeah,
or something
I think it's cool.
that.
Then you get to feel you get the behind the scenes one if you opt into that. It's kind of cool.
I want to do some sort of coffee analogy for that. I feel the longer version's like a drip coffee and the shorter version is like a shot of espresso,
Yeah.
Did you just say espresso?
Espresso.
Do you know there's no X
I'm
in
gonna ask you a
espresso?
question about espresso.
But I think maybe that was definitely a slip. But maybe that should be called. Maybe that's what it should be called, espresso, because it's express.
Yeah, that's true. I think there was I think it was some McDonald's or something did an espresso.
Of course they did.
Thing in the 80s or 90s.
Yeah.
Wait, what was that song you were talking about on the Story Pirates album called?
Backstroke Raptor?
Oh, this song?
Backstroke Raptor!
Backstroke Raptor. We did get permission to play this.
Backstroke Raptor!
Backstroke Raptor. Backstroke Velociraptor.
Who's that raptor swimming in the ocean?
Swinging his arms in a reverse motion,
Moving through the water.
lying on his back, the coolest raptor in the raptor pack.
Backstroke Raptor!
Backstroke Raptor. Backstroke Velociraptor.
Backstroke Raptor!
Backstroke Raptor. Backstroke Velociraptor.
Hey there, velociraptors, what do you do? And do you want to get off of this island?
Yeah!
Well, come over here and check out this boat. I hope you know how to use one.
Testing out the boat, we're testing out the boat. Testing out the boat, we're testing out the boat. This boat has got no engine.
This song was based on a story by a 7-year-old kid
Yes.
named Ben,
Yes.
who wrote a story called Backstroke Raptor that not only became a sketch in a stage show, but also became a song on the Story Pirates podcast, and then became a single, and then became the title of Story Pirates' second album.
That's right. Absolutely.
And there's Louie Pearlman on lead vocals.
yeah.
Or backup vocals, or I guess
Leads.
Yeah,
I
lead,
mean,
because
all
there's-
three of the singers share leads,
And the other two are Emily Alcott and Alexandra Nader.
Yeah, Alexander Nader, who was in our reading of Joey and Ron,
That's
playing the role
right.
of Daisy. Yeah.
It all comes back to Joey and Ron. And we're going to talk about that too, but I think we should all just indulge in a little Backstroke Raptor
Sure.
for the rest of this song. Here we go.
Propellers will help the boat go forward. Backstroke Raptor.
Backstroke Raptor. Backstroke Velociraptor.
Backstroke Raptor.
Backstroke Raptor. Backstroke Velociraptor.
Hey there, velociraptors, how is it going? Have you all got this boat working yet?
Yeah.
Then I'll do the backstroke and show you the way. We're a pack, so we stick together. Here we go.
We're sailing right alongside you. This boat is fabulous. Hey, Max, motion.
Swinging his arms in a reverse motion.
He can do the backstroke.
We can fix a boat. The coolest raptors anybody knows.
Backstroke raptor.
Stroke raptor. Backstroke velociraptor.
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 It's not a side stroke.
Backstroke velociraptor.
It's not a breaststroke.
Backstroke velociraptor.
It's not the butterfly.
I love the way you say Dune in that song.
It's called the Dune. You know, it's all based on. It's a few different things put together. It's all Fred Schneider, who's
Sure.
the lead singer from the B-52s, but it's based on me listening to him since I was a teenager and being hugely influenced by him, me seeing him live in concert, and then me having conversations with him because I've been fortunate enough to hang out with Fred a few times, and he's a delight.
Wait, tell me about that.
Yeah, so I am friendly with some really lovely dudes who are very involved in the B-52's fan community. One of them has been a fan since he was a young man in the 80s, and he had a party. His name's Joseph Solis. He's wonderful. He lives up right near Boston, where you're from, Joel, right
That's
up
right.
in Massachusetts. And he throws these really wild parties. And one of the parties that he threw, Fred Schneider DJ'd the party, and he, we all hung out in the living room, and Fred Schneider played like just really, really, really killer good music. And at one point, Fred sang Love Shack and Rock Lobster in the living room with us dancing the fuck around, which was amazing. And it was also at that party that I sat on Fred Schneider's lap and ate a veggie burger with him. Yeah,
That
so there's.
sounds dirty, Louie.
It was dirty. It was. It was a sexy moment. Fred and I shared a sexy moment. I will share that.
Is veggie burger a euphemism here?
Yeah, it's a euphemism for a vegan burger that's been grilled on the grill.
That's not a euphemism. That's
Yeah.
a literal definition.
And then I had dinner with Fred, with Joe as well, and a bunch of our friends last year, and we all went together to go see the Donna Summer musical. So we hung out then as well. And Fred Schneider's really lovely. He's a really interesting. He's like the real deal. He's a really interesting queer artist. Just love him.
You know a ton of people kind of in this world. Part of the joy I get to have working with you is like you'll take me to shows and concerts, and like we went backstage
but
very recently.
We went backstage with the Monkees, but that was because of you, Joel. I wouldn't have gotten backstage without you.
Oh, that's true. Well, you knew the tour manager.
I did know the tour manager, Andrew Sandoval.
I knew
who's-
Alex Jules, the keyboard player. That's true.
Yes, that's
You
a
guys
connection
are so
we both
well
had.
Connected.
It
We're
sounds
somewhat
that
well
way
connected.
when
I
we
mean,
start talking about it. But,
Yeah.
One of the things about the B-52s
Is that they're the best band of all time?
well, that is
one
one
of them.
thing.
One of them.
But also, like that is related to Joey and Ron because your new musical is about a certain style of music that is just like fun for fun's sake, bubblegum pop.
Sure.
But not that it lacks a political statement when necessary. It just does it in
Yeah.
a very danceable form.
Yeah, I mean, our hope is that this show, first and foremost, is a great time out for people to have an enjoyable show. I think both Louie and I, maybe from many of our years at Story Pirates, and I've been at Story Pirates not as long as you both, but I've been there since 2009, and I did a very similar program even in college.
That
so
is a
before
long
that,
time. You've been with Story
Yeah.
Pirates for a decade.
Yeah.
You're an OG. I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh,
maybe,
yeah.
maybe
I'm like
OG is the
second
wrong
gen.
word, but
I'm like second gen.
Yeah, I consider myself second gen
me
as
too.
well.
Yeah. I
Oh,
think
really? Okay.
The first
yeah.
Story Pirates started at Northwestern when they were in college. And,
Right.
There was definitely a generation before me, and a few of us are still around. Sam Reeve Passeru and Quentin Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I started at Northwestern, but like after all the OG people started. So like when I graduated Northwestern in 2007, I was like already 3 years deep into the idea of doing this sort of thing. And I was like, I need to move to New York. And the first people I want to reach out to are Lee and Jamie and see if there's room for me here. I jumped in at that time. Eli Bolin was really like active as a writer and music director and
Emmy
accompanist.
nominee.
Yeah, I was
Eli
going to say, I
Bolin.
think
Good
you mean
old
Emmy
Emmy-nominated.
Emmy-nominated.
Emmy nominated.
Nom nom.
Louie, geez, I can't get anybody's names right today. I'm sorry. Okay, so we're pulling back the curtain again. I just spilled coffee.
So much
everywhere.
coffee.
Oh, no.
And
But it's been cleaned.
I know, and during that whole B-52s conversation, I was frantically like cleaning it up and trying to pretend it didn't happen. And I was like, Am I really doing this? Am I really like? I just had a conversation about how I don't pretend to be
I
perfect.
was gonna wait to see if you were gonna pull it back for real or
well,
not.
I have to say, you guys did an incredible job of not reacting whenever you spill something liquid in a radio studio, it can be a big
Yeah, it's
deal.
a nightmare.
Luckily,
Yeah.
it didn't spill on any
Well,
of the
it was
equipment.
really because you literally right before the show started were like, I just drank a lot of water, so I might have to run to the bathroom. And so when you got up like mad dash, I was like, oh no, Louie,
She really
she's
has
in
to go to
trouble.
the bathroom. No,
But it's fine. We can,
The coffee is now cleared up, but it did make my brain just have a meltdown for a second and refer to Eli Bolin as Louie. Eli Bolin is the Story Pirates founding music director.
Yes.
He is also the composer of my favorite musical, Found, which
Yes.
played at the Atlantic Theater, and he was nominated for an Emmy for writing. It was Co-op,
Yeah.
Co-op,
which
the
was
musical.
for a documentary now.
Yeah,
He co-wrote it
Co-op,
with-
the best fake musical of all time.
yeah, he wrote a
Is it the
parody
cocaine
of
one that
Company.
he won
Company.
He won for? Was it for the whole show or for the song?
Oh,
I think
what
it
song
did a little
was it?
cocaine tonight. I think was the song maybe.
That could be it. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but I know it was for Co-op. The
So
musical
funny.
with
All the
John
songs are
Mulaney.
so funny.
Hysterical.
Anyway,
Yeah.
we're going off on major tangents.
Yeah.
So so Eli used to be sort of the day-to-day Story Pirates music guy, but as
Mm-hmm.
Story Pirates grew, and also Eli moved to the suburbs and had a couple of kids and started working, with John Mulaney on,
Oh my
like
gosh.
these major projects, and so
Dreamboat John Mulaney.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, he kind of left some of the broader, higher-minded, musical-related things with Story Pirates, like up to me. I hire and train the pianists now when he was sort of the guy who did that when I started. And, I got in a really fun time where there weren't a ton of people doing what Eli and I were doing. There were certainly some other great pianists around at the company at that point. But I was in a position to really jump in with Eli and really like grab the bull by the horns on the music side and persevere. And to tie it sort of back to this Joey and Ron idea and what we want out of the show and why we're so excited about having Fun Night Out is that's the thing. That is the most important part of music for me, for Louie, and for telling stories in a musical way is having it be fun, having it be exciting, having it be very mindfully present in the moment, and like creating something that if you come out to see, you're going to have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to make you dance and make you think too.
Yeah.
You should print that in big letters. We're going to
Yeah.
make you dance and make you think too. So sometimes musicals, you can tell from the title what they're about, right?
Yeah.
Joey and Ron is just two names.
Yeah.
Although I guess if the subtitle is, say it to me again.
A 60s musical, a 60s bubblegum rock fantasia on American themes.
Jeez.
Yeah, which is also a shout out to Angels in America.
Of course.
It's a bit of a sly nod because Angels in America, just for listeners that might not know, is a gay fantasia on American themes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this is a bubblegum fantasia.
Yes, that's right.
And bubblegum rock music, what does that term mean?
Yeah, I'd be happy to explain that because it's a term that's often misinterpreted. So the golden era of bubblegum rock music really only spans a few years. It spans about 1968 to 1971, and it's a term that was coined because a bunch of very smart record executives realized that kids that were about 9 to 11 had a lot of spending money that they were spending on candy, on bubblegum, and that they wanted to emulate their older brothers and sisters who were buying a lot of records. However, there wasn't a lot of music at the time that was for kids that age. A lot of rock had progressed and had become really evolved. We're talking about later period Beatles at the time, like Abbey Road era Beatles, which is a little less accessible to a younger audience. We're talking Hendrix. We're talking like
Zeppelin.
Zeppelin. Yeah, rock was getting a little heavier and a little more complicated. So these executives decided to create these very concise and smart pop songs that were for younger kids to fill that gap. And what they created was a genre of music that some people view as simplistic, but ended up being really very related to classic like 50s rock and roll, good direct garage rock music that's from the 60s, and then laid out the template for disco music, for new wave music, and certainly for punk. You know, the Ramones always said, first and foremost, that they were a bubblegum rock band.
Which sounds crazy because I associate bubblegum rock with like very buttoned up, sort of it's okay to bring it home to your mom. You can listen to it with your parents.
Yes. However, all of those songs were being written by 18 and 19-year-olds who thought it was hysterical to bring a bunch of what I call, this isn't a term that I coined, this is a term that bubblegum rock fans have, a bunch of bubble entendres into the music. Yeah, you know, so
I feel like you should call this a bubble entendre musical, although it's not sexual and like it doesn't have enough.
It's not quite sexual enough, and I actually in this rewrite just used the term bubble entendre in the show, which I think it's time to get it into the show. Yeah, but you know, songs like Yummy, 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 I've Got Love in My Tummy, who were written by...
I mean, that sounds like bubble entendre to me.
Absolutely, yeah, and that was written by Joey Levine, who's one of the namesakes of the show, and he sang it as well for the group Ohio Express. And I interviewed Joey about 6 years ago now, and he said that at the time he was 19, 20 years old, and he was really interested in exploring sort of budding ideas that he was having about relationships through the music, and that comes out. You know, there's sort of this, you can see the development of a nascent artist going on with a lot of Joey's work, and it's one of the reasons I was drawn to it in the first place.
So you say that Joey Levine?
Yes, Joey Levine,
one of,
the father of bubblegum music.
So he is the namesake of one of your characters, but
Yes.
this is not a musical about him.
That
is
is
a
correct.
completely original story.
Yes.
About a band of teenagers.
Yes.
And Joey is the name of one of the characters. You named him after an actual figure.
Yes.
But that actual figure
in tribute to him,
is
yes.
not the subject. This
That
is not
is
a
correct.
bio
It's
musical.
completely fictionalized
it just
musical.
happens to be that the guy's name is Joey.
Yeah, and
because you named him after that.
I named a bunch of the characters after real people who were, due their respect in the music world and who were sort of worked behind the scenes in this genre of music. Ron is named after Ron Dante, who is the lead singer of the Archies.
I'm glad you brought up the Archies.
Of
because
course.
Archie comic books were one of the first things that you and I bonded over.
Yeah.
Because we both grew up reading Archies.
Yes.
I had my dad's collection of
Yes.
Archie comics. Did you read the older generation ones too, or the ones that were coming out when we were kids, like in the 80s and 90s?
I read a lot of the double digests that you could buy at the grocery store growing up. And what's great about the double digest is they had a lot of modern stories from the time in them and then had a lot of reprints.
Yeah.
So I was reading, basically the full canon from the 40s all the way up to the 80s and early 90s when I was reading them. And they definitely left a real impression on me. And really there's something that I revisited sort of in my mid to late 20s as being really important, big, good comic storytelling, and have just left a huge mark on my life. Yeah.
Joel, did you grow up reading Archie comic books too?
Not in the slightest. And I think that's part of why this is kind of a really fun experience for me, because I grew up, I like to think of myself as someone who goes very deep on a few things as opposed to like broad about a lot of things. Piano, like that was hours of practice every day. I was an opera major in college. So like different
As a singer?
aspects. Yeah. Yeah,
Oh
I
my
graduated with an opera
gosh.
degree from Northwestern, randomly enough,
Wow.
but was also like the Griffin's Tale
fancy.
pianist. I don't know. It was a strange time, but I like to go deep on like a couple things, like deep strategic board games are really interesting to me. So like I know a lot about a little, so it's really a great time for me to like collaborate with and really get to know people who know a good deal about a lot of things, and that is Louie to a T.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you. Because I feel like I'm pretty niche as well.
We all have our things that we dive deep into.
Yeah.
And I think it can be really nice to have one person working on a project who knows like everything about it, and one person who's bringing a fresh set of eyes and ears. And the reason that I mention Archie, and I think that's such a big deal, is that I heard a rumor that
Yeah.
Joey and Ron was originally started kind of as a piece of Archie fan fiction that
Sort of.
then sort of developed into an original story about characters who resemble Archie and the gang as you might know them from the comic books.
Yeah, as someone who's done some licensed writing for Archie, and the stories that I wrote for Archie are horror stories. And something that I love about the characters is they're iconic, and you can really, as long as you get the spirit of the characters, you can really throw them around a lot and play very fast and loose with them, and they still retain their shape, and they still do what they're supposed to do, as long as you keep the voice. And this show, totally full disclosure, is my attempt to write an unlicensed Archie's musical the way that I would like to see an Archie's musical out in the world. And that's completely intentional. However, I've changed all the names so that I can play fast and loose with the characters, and it's not like people need to have any previous knowledge of Archie comics or of the Archies to enjoy the show.
And you don't need to worry necessarily about what the canon is about these characters.
Totally.
Although, I mean, I guess obviously there is an Archie's canon, but
there's
I feel
there's an Archie multiverse, my dear.
right. Well, sure, because,
Yeah.
Sabrina the Teenage Witch and
The Riverdale universe is different
Right,
from the
of
classic
course.
Archie universe.
and Josie and the Pussycats had their own comic books,
Yeah.
but like also they would cross over and do gigs with the Archies,
Yes.
and then there's like the actual Archies, the band that sang
Yes.
Sugar Sugar.
That's correct.
And so I feel like already the canon, like, Veronica Lodge always had a rich dad.
Yep.
And Betty was always the cute girl next door.
Yeah.
But there was not that much else that like stayed the same. Like Moose was always the big sort of
Yeah.
doofus.
My fave, Moose,
Moose?
who's not in our show. Yeah,
Yeah,
who
no.
I love. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about what people can expect when they go see Joey and Ron. By the way, it's going to be at the Players Theater, and that starts in November.
Yeah, the run is November 1st to the 17th, and it's at the Players Theater Annex space. Is that what it's called? The Annex?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
maybe the loft space.
Loft space. I'm sorry, the Players Theater Loft. That's
Yeah.
right, Joel. I'm
I
sorry.
actually have a little. It's a little gift for you. It's a minor gift, but
Oh, a gift.
I wanted people to have a spot to go. I wanted people to be able to easily seek out Joey and Ron and information about it. You guys have a Kickstarter going to
Yeah.
fund your production coming up later this year, and it is like a long Kickstarter URL. So I have created bit.ly/Kickstart Joey and Ron.
Thank you.
All spelled out, so people can just go to, it's bit.ly/Kickstart Joey and Ron.
Excellent.
Thank you.
And
Oh, that's so
also, while we're plugging URLs, right now it goes directly to the Kickstarter, but it'll be, once the Kickstarter is done, more info about the run of the show and about the show in general. I always say that, and I feel like such an old dude.
Yeah, you
Going
definitely
to
don't
www.
need to say the three W's
It's
anymore.
joeyronmusical.com.
I love that it's joeyronmusical.com because your Twitter and Instagram are also Joey Ron Musical.
Yes, and that was due to your suggestion. Thank you, Laura.
I was like, get those URLs.
Streamline it.
yeah.
So go to joeyronmusical.com or bit.ly/Kickstart Joey and Ron.
Yeah, which is
And
awesome.
So you can find out a lot about the project. And what I think is so cool, we hear about Kickstarters all the time. We're asked to give to them.
Yes.
Usually you, it'll be like for $100 you get your name in the program and 2 tickets to the show and blah, blah, blah. And, but tickets, that will be the case if tickets are $20 and you still have to donate $100 to get the 2 tickets.
Yeah.
Because, the money's going to a lot of different things. But you've made a vow through your Kickstarter that the cheapest way to get tickets is actually to pay for them now through the Kickstarter.
Yeah. So a lot of what we're doing is kind of taking a clue from board game Kickstarters,
Yeah.
which often part of
Cool.
their funding process is to basically pre-buy the board game by donating to the Kickstarter, and then once it's capitalized, then they create the board game, and the gift is the board game. So we took that as an idea, and we are partnering with the Players Theater, who understands our need to do it this sort of a way, and they're sort of cutting us some slack in terms of how they normally do things to make the Kickstarter donations that get us to our goal, the cheapest and best way to get tickets in advance for the show, or to get tickets in terms of how much money you spend for the show.
Yeah, so you can pre-buy tickets. It's going to be the cheapest way they're available, and then
and the cheapest way they'll ever be available.
That's correct.
So $55. You
Cheapest way they'll ever be available to like the general public.
to the general
it's
public,
possible we may
yeah.
have some sort of like youth or student discount on top
Sure.
of that, but
Yeah.
like in terms of a general public discount, yes, 100%.
Okay, that's a good clarification.
Yeah.
I love so $55, 2 tickets to an off-Broadway show. That's already a great deal. Plus, you get a professional video download link. You get a killer bubblegum music mix.
Yeah, for
social
me.
media shout outs. So
And at a higher level, too, we have a commission. This is very cool. A commission of your new most favorite band, which is the bubblegum rock band from the show, the 745th Clock Conglomerate, by Archie Comics artist Fernando Ruiz. And at a lower level, you can get bubblegum trading cards of each member of the 745th
do they
Clock
come
Conglomerate.
with cracked hard as a rock bubblegum?
You know what? I'm going to say supply your own stale 10-year-old bubblegum. Yeah.
I was thinking like 50-year-old bubblegum.
Yeah, seriously. Sometimes I buy Pee-wee's Playhouse trading cards, which are still readily available at Economy Candy down in the Lower East Side.
But they haven't been made for at least 20 years.
No, yeah, really long time, the mid-'80s, and there's gum in them still. I do not chew the gum. It's like toxic.
Ooh,
Who
sure.
is your
Isn't that funny?
favorite Pee-wee's Playhouse character?
Cherry,
Yeah, Cherry's
big
pretty...
and cozy.
Cherry's pretty lovely. I kind of love Flory because he's
Floor,
always
the
saying,
floor.
"Come stand over me," which I love. Yeah.
I like the guy who goes door to door.
Oh my
And
God,
he
I'm
Door-to-door
so
salesman.
scared of
he
him.
goes,
Oh, yeah.
I'm going door to door.
Yeah.
And there's actually a moment in Hamilton where Aaron Burr is, trying to get elected, and he goes, I'm going door to door.
It's so funny you bring that up. I literally brought up that guy as a reference point for a new rewrite thing we were working on about Mrs. F, where I was like,
Oh,
when
yeah.
she shows up, she's like really scary to like the
Yeah,
band members.
yeah,
Mrs. F
traveling
is
salesman.
a teacher or neighbor in the show that's like always hot on the trail of the kids as they're going about their business,
She
hiding
reminds
from
me of
people.
like the Scooby-Doo guy.
Yeah, yeah.
Who's like, those darn kids.
Yeah.
They're always
Exactly.
up to something.
Yeah, it really does feel a lot like that Scooby-Doo character, and so we thought also about that door-to-door salesman guy.
That's hilarious.
salesman!
I love Pee-wee's Playhouse. Did you get to see it when it was on Broadway?
Yes, it was a life-changing experience. Yeah, he is one of my major idols.
I really think that Pee-wee's Playhouse is a great place to like, again, Joey and Ron reminds me of that kind of humor.
Yes.
We watched it as kids and we saw it in a certain way and it was funny and there were all these visual gags, and like he's jumping into the magic screen and stuff. But then there also was a different layer of humor that I see now when I watch it and I'm like, oh my gosh, did they really just go there? And I feel like maybe that's Bubble Entendre in its own way.
Yeah.
But some of the themes of Joey and Ron, I think we should talk a little bit more about the plot to give people more an idea, but there is this element of, on one level, it feels extremely G-rated, and then on another level, there are some even political commentary, and there's some social lessons in there that you wouldn't see unless you wanted to, but it's not simple.
Yeah. So Joey and Ron is a show about a small town garage band who live in Oakdale, USA, and their name is Ronnie and the Sugars. But their drummer, Joey, gets drafted for Vietnam, which is definitely where the political stuff comes in. He gets drafted for Vietnam, so he thinks of a crazy scheme, because the band is set to perform at the Battle of the Bands. And he can't be seen in public anymore. So he comes up with a crazy scheme to disguise them as a 60s bubblegum rock, like cartoon band. So they're wearing crazy wigs and disguises, and they call themselves the 745th Clock Conglomerate.
Which nobody can seem to get right.
Yeah, nobody can
who
get the
tries
name
to
right.
remember it calls them the 718th Wristwatch Club. And,
Yeah.
nobody can remember.
Yeah, what did I just...
Yeah.
I just thought of a new one. Oh, yeah, the 745 Chihuahuas. Yeah.
Nice.
So they... disguise themselves as this band, and they do it and end up signing a record contract with a really greedy record executive named Robbie Love. And they end up on this tour of county fairs. But what they're really trying to do while they tour is get $20 to get Joey up to Canada so that he can escape. Yeah, $20 whole so that they can escape, get him up to Canada so he can evade the draft. And they're also being pursued by Mrs. F, who's like a curmudgeonly old teacher of theirs, who may have some ulterior motives for the band.
She may or may
That's
not.
right.
Yeah.
You'll have to see it.
Yeah, you have to see the show to find out. Yeah, so that's the plot of the show.
Should we hear a song from the show?
I'd love to.
That would be great.
Okay,
Hear a
so
song
this
from
song
Joey
is
and Ron.
called Through Our Garage.
Yeah, it's the
what
opening
can you
number.
tell us about it?
It's the opening number. It's the Joey and Ron meeting up to start band practice in their garage. And it gives us a sense of the two of them, a sense of primarily, in this version, the world that they live in. A kind of chance to look around and give the audience eyes on Oakdale, USA.
Yeah, the 4-color cookie cutter world.
Here is Through Our Garage.
Hi, welcome home, you're not alone in tiny Oakdale, USA, where nothing bad ever happens, but they think that that's okay. The houses on this block are all lined up in a 4-color collage. I sit behind my drums and see my world all through our garage. There's Mrs. F who clips a picture of her garden every single day, watering her dandy pansies and giving crusty sweets away. Her pies are cooling on the window for a church service barrage. We're here and in our perfect little world, all through our garage. I see the houses all lined up, I see the families all chimed up, I see red leaves stacked up in nice neat piles. The dogs are barking in their pens, I hear the owners bark at them. It may look perfect, but for us it's just a day. Comes our band, let's take our first song from the top. Hey Ron, you strum and man, I'll drum, and I hope that we don't totally flop. And I elect to end this small reflection on my life's montage. Feeling so trapped, just Ron and me, suburban zombies never to be free. All these old people deaf into our plea, wish we could pack up everything and flee. I can see everything, everywhere, every day, every time we get together and jam with each other, and our whole world just melts away. All through our garage.
Nice work, gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
We love our song. I still love all the music from Joey and Ron,
I should hope so. The show hasn't even started off Broadway yet.
Yeah, but I've been working on it for 6 years.
Yeah,
but
it's been a long journey of writing the show together. Would love to talk about that. I definitely want to credit Izzy Figueroa and Brett Uram, who were the singers on that. They sang the roles of Joey. Izzy was Joey and Brett was Ron.
I love Izzy's
Fantastic.
nasally punk bubblegum vocals.
Well, I can't wait to see what the final casting is for the show at the Players.
Us too.
So
That's actually worth mentioning, too, is that we are having open auditions
Really?
that are going on a
Yep.
week and a half from now. So by the time your download listeners are listening, it'll be like that weekend, this weekend.
Where can people find the information about
We are
audition?
posting on Backstage, Playbill, and Actors Access either today or tomorrow. So keep your eyes peeled. Check it on, Thursday night, Friday.
And
there won't be a
those are
deadline.
searchable platforms. Like if people search Joey and Ron, can they find it?
Yeah,
Yes.
and I'll also post it on our website as well.
Good. Yeah.
www.joeyronmusical.com.
:/. Plus, I assume you'll put it on your newly formed social media pages, Joey Ron Musical.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Which everyone should
Facebook,
follow
Twitter,
and
and
friend us.
Instagram. Yeah.
And what types are you looking for?
Lots of types. We're looking for many of the members of the band itself. We are looking for the Mrs. F character. And we are looking for some ensemble members, some female ensemble members.
Yes.
Great. How close do they have to resemble Archie and his gang?
Not at all.
They actually take a look at the descriptions because we do have a role for a cute young redhead guy.
Very recognizable
Who's
as an Archie
very
type.
recognizable as an Archie type, but then the rest of the roles have somewhat been flipped. We have roles for actors of all different types and ethnicities and all that stuff.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, Joel, how did you get brought in on this project? Because I know Louie
feel
started
like-
working on it 6 years ago. He wrote it sort of with the idea of it being Archie or Archie-esque.
Right.
And you had never heard of Archie, or you
Exactly.
So how
Well, first
did
and
the
foremost, I
collaboration
think
happen?
you asked Eli, and he was like busy at the time.
I sort of asked.
So I'm
Eli.
like number 2 to Eli, which is a great place to be in. Again.
Oh man, I don't know if I really asked
Sure.
Eli properly.
I was
Yeah.
trying to, because I figured that question might come up. I was like, I think that this is another one of those like living in like the happy coattails of Eli Bolin, which is
Totally.
a very wonderful place to be in.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
But so Louie and I started writing this 2013, I believe, and I was drawn to it because I loved Louie. I felt very happy and safe with him. We had worked together in Story Pirates for like 4 years at that point. And I was in a place creatively as a musical theater writer where I was a little nervous, a little shy. I wasn't really putting my stuff out there, and I didn't really feel safe putting my stuff out there. And then here's Louie with this amazing idea for a show. And while I wasn't like a big bubblegum guy, I definitely loved the Beatles, the Beach Boys, all the main hits, Mamas and Papas, Turtles, sort of the mainstream stuff. And I saw a lot of corollaries between that kind of music and what I think of as like really good musical theater music, which is that it's focused, it's clear, it delivers, it packs a punch, it's catchy, it's fun, it floats. And
Ooh, it floats. What an
Yeah.
evocative adjective to use for musical theater.
yeah, it has to sort of soar,
Yeah.
And I remember being in a BMI workshop and hearing someone present for Alan Menken, and he was the moderator, and his feedback for that piece was like he just kept doing this gesture with his arms, like almost like a backstroke actor or something, where he's like waving his arms sort of around. He's like, it just needs to, like the melody needs to soar. And that's always how I felt about melody and about music. And I see so much in common with the actual genre of bubblegum pop and my actual genre of like my brand of musical theater writing, that I was like, oh, this is a match made in heaven. I want to learn more about this genre. Louie can be the perfect sort of bumpers on the bowling alley to make sure that I stay in genre and on genre as I'm really crafting the melody, crafting the harmonies and the contrapuntal music, and making the
What
band
was that
arrangements.
word?
Contrapuntal? I was
What?
like, is it
What?
counterpuntal or contrapuntal?
I have no idea. I don't know
Sorry,
what
that's
that
like a
means.
weird music theory term where it's like two different voices that like work. They're both melodies, but they work nicely
it's
together.
The word counterpoint.
Yeah.
An adjective.
Yes.
I know what counterpoint means. I've
Yeah.
never heard it as an
No, that's so
adjective.
cool, Joel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I love it. We're learning.
So going deep on my like music composition place, then I get to like learn about this really fun interesting music that is so clear, so catchy, so fun, and delivers a message really directly to the audience. It's
Yeah.
a great vehicle to really deliver something with heart.
Do you did Louie make you a playlist and be like, here's the sound I want? Is
Oh
this
my
the
God.
same playlist that we're gonna get when we donate to the Kickstarter?
No, I'm doing a brand new playlist that's going to be specifically mixed for this. That I think I'm going to add some really fun stuff. I've started doing some research and looking up old bubblegum ads for actual gum from the 60s and other
Interesting.
candy ads that I'm going to mix into the mix. And then I might do some old school 60s DJ radio announcing for it as well. And then along with that, I'm really going to go very deep cut with this mix. So it's stuff that you wouldn't just hear on like a generalized Spotify bubblegum rock playlist.
So this is not just Sugar Sugar from the Archies
Yeah.
and whatever songs sort of fall under that category.
Yeah, you can hear Sugar Sugar on any sort of playlist or Yummy 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 on every sort of playlist, which are sort of the biggest examples of bubblegum. I'm going to go really deep. I'm going to play groups you've absolutely never heard of before, like Waterproof Tinker Toy, or
That's a band?
yeah, Waterproof Tinker Toy.
I feel like that's the kind of thing that people go like, that would be a good band name.
Yeah.
But somebody actually was like, oh, that would be a good band name.
Yeah, Waterproof Tinker Toy, or there's another band that I love called The Marshmallow Way. There's another one that's called Le Cirque that I'm probably going to put a song on by Le Cirque. Definitely going to include some like big heavy hitters. There will definitely be one song by the Archies on there. There has to be. There'll be a little bit of bubble glam on it as well. Definitely.
What's a bubble glam example?
Sweet, Sweet, who are really well known for Ballroom Blitz, but I'll put on something a little more obscure.
Man,
maybe
these
some.
bands really named themselves after candy.
Yeah,
Like,
Absolutely.
they went for it.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny how art and commerce overlap.
Yes. That's a big theme of our show.
Yeah. Well, and that's I love that because it means the theme of the show is also the theme of the show. Like,
Yes.
it's referential in more ways than one.
Yeah.
And I think that's really smart. Did you know that do you know why soap operas are called soap operas?
Yes, because soap used to be the sponsors for them.
Well,
That's
they
why.
were created
Yeah.
to get people to watch soap commercials.
Yes.
They were like, what can we create that's so compelling that people will sit through a commercial and not change the channel?
Yeah.
And so they were like, well, if we put a cliffhanger at the end of every single scene, then people will stick around and watch the commercials so they can find out what happens next. And they're created by soap companies.
Yeah.
And
Oh, cool. I did
it
not know
sounds
that.
like this whole music genre was created, like, I guess not to sell bubblegum, but rather to take money away, take the bubblegum money out
it's
of kids'
to
pockets.
to
and
get
put-
their bubblegum money. Absolutely. And also a big theme I'm trying to address in the current rewrite of the script that I'm doing that I think is related to this is how do people in the United States, in our culture, and especially in the 60s, how are they commoditized? What's the similarities between a young man being drafted to have to go fight in a war with a band of musicians being completely bought and sold for record contracts so that their songs can appear on the backs of cereal boxes?
Oh my gosh.
What's the relation there? And that's something that I'm trying to make very clear in this draft. It's been a really fun thing to explore in the last few weeks as I've started rewriting.
So I know you did a reading recently, and
Yes.
and there's actually a reference in the song we just heard about how she snips a picture of her garden every day.
Clips a picture of her garden every single day.
And then the instruments that the band plays are all made of cardboard.
Yes.
And that was not just because there was no budget for the reading. That is actually how this is designed.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about the decision to use two-dimensional elements in a three-dimensional project?
Absolutely. It's kind of a funny thing. I have done so many projects over the years with cardboard props. It seems to be like part of like the Louie aesthetic. I did a whole student film when I was in film school. There was a kids film that's called Winston Buckles' Day Out, and that had all cardboard props. There's something about this aspect that I keep gravitating back towards. And I think that it's somewhat about the presentational aspects of these characters, and then as the show goes along, I want them to become more and more real through the eyes of the audience. So as they start, they are, living in a comic book, bubblegum rock, Saturday morning cartoon world where all of their instruments are cardboard, and the music is actually being played by a pit orchestra off to the side of the stage. Very much like how these bands operated. The Archies, which were quote unquote a real band, were the Archie comics characters singing their songs every Saturday morning. But behind the scenes were this excellent group of songwriters, Brill Building songwriters, Andy Kim and Jeff Barry, for example, and these wonderful session musicians, a lot of them who were like old school New York blues musicians and stuff like that, playing this rock and music behind the scenes, and we never saw any of them.
So the Archies never toured?
So the Archies never toured. There was an idea. I interviewed Ron Dante once as well, the same project when I interviewed Joey. And he shared with me that there was an idea in the late 60s to dress Ron up like Archie and have him play. And I think that would have been really dreadful, and I'm glad it never happened. Ron, who is one of the loveliest men I've ever had the pleasure of meeting and interviewing, and who absolutely adores his work with the Archies and collects Archies memorabilia because it's a very special time in his life, and he's very proud of it. But I think that would have really cheapened the whole experience to have trot him out and force him to dress like Archie Andrews.
And yet you have characters in your play who are putting on wigs and scarves to be a band that, to sort of hide. And I feel like that's Ouroboros-esque as well.
Absolutely. And it's intentional. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Totally. We have about 2 minutes left,
Love
1 minute
it.
left, and I want to make sure that we give everyone all of the information. Again, at Joey Ron Musical on both Twitter and Instagram, and to follow you two individually, it's at J to the Esh on
all
Twitter
words.
and Instagram, and Louie's is Louie4711. You can go to bit.ly/kickstart Joey and Ron or joeyronmusical.com. See Joey and Ron at the Players Theater in New York City in November and get the cheapest possible tickets by contributing to the Kickstarter campaign today. I'm going to make a donation to the Kickstarter campaign as a thank you for you guys coming on the air. I encourage everybody else to do the same. I am going to be a part of this show one way or another, definitely behind the scenes, not on the stage. But I'm declaring myself here and now part of the Joey and Ron, the musical family, whether you like it or not, and I can't thank you enough for coming in.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for having us and being a part of our family. We cannot wait to do more work with you.
Yeah, thank you for joining our ragtag bubblegum army.
Oh, I love that. Ragtag Bubblegum Army. That should be the fan name.
Join us.
For
join
Joey
us.
and Ron, a new 60s bubblegum rock musical coming to Off-Broadway in November.